सब स्ट्रिंग्स देख लो एक बार. सा जो है थोड़ा थोड़ा चढ़ेगा. Definitely better. Thank you. और इसका जो है इसमें टेक्सचर में कुछ मत करिए, सिर्फ वॉल्यूम दीजिए बस. नॉर्मल नेचुरल साउंड दीजिए. ट्रेबल और बेस जो है ना, और मिड हल्का हल्का दीजिएगा. पहले थोड़ा वॉल्यूम दे दीजिए बस. थोड़ा सा वॉल्यूम और दे दीजिए. थोड़ा सा और वॉल्यूम. सितार वाला, नॉट द वॉइस, जस्ट द सितार. Ranjit, it's okay? Yeah, I think we are set. मेरा जूता है जापानी. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for lightening up the entire evening. Gaurav, share with us your experiences. You've done so many international collaborations. You've had a chance to observe some of the cultural differences and similarities around the world. How are the cultures between India and Japan? Similar, different? What are the intersecting points? What do you feel binds the two together?
Thank you. Wonderful question, AABHA. Whenever I try to embrace another culture, meet a musician from a different tradition, I always try to look for the differences first. Because in isolation, we are unique. Every tradition, every form of music, they have evolved hundreds and thousands of kilometers away. So they look different, they sound different. The instruments are different, even though the principles are same. You will have a stringed instrument. Instead of having the frets or the bridge of the sitar, on the koto, the beautiful Japanese instrument, the plugged instrument, they have a movable bridge which keeps moving, and hence you get other notes. The sound is very distinct, very different. So whenever I collaborate with another musician, my collaboration with Japanese musicians, I always tell them, retain who you are, and I retain who we are, and let's try and meet with our differences, because then what we create is something unique and very different. Otherwise, if they end up playing rags, and I end up playing the pentatonic scale Japanese music is quite known for, it will sound very similar to who we are and who they are, and why are we collaborating then? So it's good to embrace the differences and get to learn their culture. And that's exactly what I did in all my collaborations. Also with the collaboration I did with these wonderful Japanese musicians who came on a scholarship through the Japanese Foundation here in Delhi. And we spent quite a lot of time together. They came to my home in my music room. We sat for hours trying to find that sound we are trying to create. I didn't want to tell them about rags and I didn't want to learn. We just played for the first few hours and then we found common grounds. And what came out was very, very nice. People loved it. And that's how I approach any collaboration I do.
I'm going to ask you to, in a moment, play something that has been popular with your Japanese audience. But I'm going to go across to Kaori as well and understand from her what made you pick up the Odissi style of dance. What drew you to it? You've spent so many years perfecting the art.
Namaste. Kaori Naka.
Still not on.
Not on?
Yeah.
Just put it here, just closer. Yeah.
Namaskar.
Can we have her microphone? Let me give it to her. Yeah. Why don't you take this? You're welcome.
Good evening. Meifun Kaori Naka. Konbanwa. My name is Kaori Naka. When I was 18, 19, I used to travel a lot Asian countries. And when I came to India, I saw Odissi at the Ragrajpur in Orissa. It's a very small art village. Then I was so impressed, and since then I started learning this dance.
We will have the pleasure of watching Kaori dance as well a little later. But first, what was the reaction in Japan, Kaori, to you doing Odissi? It must be an art form they're not familiar with.
I think in Japan, Odissi is quite popular. Of course, Indian classical art, dance, music it's not big field, but I think some people are really fond of it and really deep in it, because the Indian classical art is really deep.
Okay. So we know that Japanese influences have infiltrated Bollywood. But what resonates when it comes to Japanese audiences, when it comes to our music?
I think it's our scales, especially the pentatonic scales, like a very beautiful haunting melody, which we play very often in the morning. Sitar sound. It's played so much in Japan. It's known as Rag Gunkali in India. And it's very, very, very common, and it sounds very beautiful. It's very meditative. And what makes it different is the slur or the mead we have. But we do have shrutis or microtones, which is also used in Japanese music, very much. And the slur is there, especially on instruments like the shakuhachi, the flute. And you hear it, but it's executed differently. But you hear the microtones if you really hear very closely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your journey as well, Gaurav. Yeah, go ahead.
My journey has been now almost 30 years long, performing in India, in my country, where I love performing, collaborating in India with Indian musicians, especially from the South, which has got a very distinct tradition, the Carnatic music, then doing music for films, and also working with Western musicians in India. It's been a great experience. Then traveling abroad, meeting wonderful musicians like Philip Glass and Daniel Hope, working with the Chicago Sinfonietta, writing the concerto, working with Chinese musicians, with the Shenzhen Symphony Orchestra. I did my premiere of my first concerto celebration a few years back. Collaboration always is very, very, very important for me because it makes me grow. I think out of the box, and I try to create something original, something different, something challenging, even for me. So the sitar pieces I play in my collaborations are very different to what I play in my classical music with the tabla, the classical tradition. So, but the process is a very learning experience for me. I learn so much. I learn about their culture, I learn about their instruments, I learn how they have learned, because as you know, for us the tradition is so very personal. We are part of the family of our guru, our teacher. We live with our teacher. I stayed with my guru for 7 years in his house to learn this music. And it's a very, very personal. In Japan, it's also like that, you know. So it's very important for me to know how they have done it, how they have learned, how they struggled. So my journey is still continuing. I'm still very much in the beginning of my, whatever little I play, I know, and I hope I still find a lot of experiences going forward for a long, long, long time. Thank you.
Kaori, what about you? And what made you move to India? What's next for you?
As I said, this Indian classical dance is really deep, and this is like a long journey, never end. So I would like to continue learning process. And I love Indian culture, Indian people. I settled down here like 10 years ago, and still I learn many things from India.
What do you like most about India?
People, culture, of course, art is really deep and beautiful.
You know, we're talking about, you know, the Indo-Japan conclave and so many opportunities for partnership and growth and so forth. You know, how do you see an increase in integration, even when it comes to art and culture going forward? You know, just in terms of what you've seen, how you feel things have perhaps changed, how receptive people are to giving a platform to artists, to classical music and the arts as well, to keeping those alive, you know, in the current scheme of things.
You know, it's not just today. There has been a lot of give and take when it has come to music and art and culture. Like this song, this beautiful song written by Shailendra, the great poet, excuse me, was written way back in 1951, Mera Joota hai Japani. And I don't know where it came from, because we have always known the best shoes comes from Italy and China. So, but he wrote this beautiful song, Mera Joota hai Japani, basically saying, whatever you do, you travel all over the world, you get the best from wherever, but my heart is still Indian. So you retain who you are anyway. But this, if you see the Bombay film industry, I don't like calling it Bollywood, there is such a give and take always. The orchestration of Bombay film music is exemplary, because they have taken the best of the Western music, especially the harmony, orchestration, and incorporated our melodies, our rags, and made Indian composition. So when you hear that orchestration, it's correct in terms of technique when it comes to harmony, counterpoint, but it's very Indian. But it's been taken. So our culture has always found a resonance, whether it is Japan, whether it is Germany, England, America. People have traveled. I've been traveling for 30 years now. My guru, Pandit Ravi Shankarji, who took this music and culture to the world. His elder brother, Uday Shankarji, way back in 1930s, took this music and dance to all over the world. And there was always people who were very fascinated with this music. They always gave up the best platforms, I would say, not just a platform, but the best platforms. You talk of Carnegie Hall, you talk Royal Albert Hall, you talk of Festival Hall. They all have seen this music for the last at least 70, 80 years, 100 years. So there is always a room. Now, how do you do it if somebody is starting today? How does he find the platform? How does he find a way to go abroad? I don't have an answer. But if you're good in your work, if you are open, if you really embrace everybody who comes along your way, you will find a way to find the right platform which you deserve. And there is always room to do so much. There's so much more to be done.
Kaori, when you moved to India, and in the recent years that you've been practicing, firstly, what is your routine like? How long do you have to practice, and how often do you perform? And secondly, what was the experience in coming back to the land of Odissi dancers, really, compared to being in Japan, where I'm guessing there would be fewer? When you've come into the Indian, space, how has that experience been in working with other artists and other dancers?
First of all, my routine, I start from yoga in the morning. And its program is all depends on the organizers. Whenever I get the opportunity, I never say no. I'm happy to dance because it's passion to dance. And what was it?
And have you had the opportunity to interact with some of the other dancers here in India?
Yes, still I have been learning under Guruji, so I perform with other dancers, and actually they are really good because they are Indian. I'm not Indian, so there's a huge gap. I cannot explain, but it's huge gap. I have to learn a lot because I'm not Indian, so I'm not born as a dancer, in India. So I have to learn a lot about culture. So it's like endless.
Got it. Gaurav, would you play something else for us?
Sure, definitely. What would you like to hear?
What would you like to hear, everybody?
Okay, I'll play some melody which belongs to this part of the day, and hopefully you'll like it. Thank you. I need little better sound for my sitar. If I can have little more volume. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think we should give an opportunity for Kaori to
Definitely.
perform. I have a few notes on the dance. She's going to be presenting Shivastak. It's a compilation of 8 verses glorifying the Lord Shiva, the preceptor of gods, the king of all animals, the auspicious one, and the supreme Lord who protects and transforms the universe.
So we leave the stage. Right?
We'll leave
Yeah.
the stage,
Yeah.
yes. Come on.
Thank you. Thank you, AABHA. Thank you.
Thank you
all
so
of
much.
you.
Thank you so much, Gaurav.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And-
Thank you. All the best. Looking forward. Yeah, of course. I'll be here in the front. I'll be there in the front. नहीं कभी नहीं हाँ। बेटा इसको भी रख के आ जाओ and we'll go and sit there.
जल्दी आओ यार उधर रख दो
आ रहे हैं पूरे लास्ट वंदे शंभु उमापतिं शूरगुरु वंदे शंभु उमापतिं शूरगुरु वंदे जगत वंदे पन्नग भूषण मृगधरं वंदे पशुना पतिं वंदे सूर्य शशांक वह्निनयनं वंदे मुकुंद प्रियं वंदे भक्त जनाश्रयं च वरदं वंदे शिव वंदे शिव शंकर
महेश गुणं गुणहीन महीश गणाभरणं प्रभुमीश मनीष महेश गुणं गुणहीन महीश गणाभरणं गुणहीन महीश गणाभरणं रणनीर्जित दुर्जय दैत्यपुरं रणनीर्जित दुर्जय दैत्यपुरं प्रणमामि शिवं शिवकल्पतरुं प्रणमामि शिवं शिवकल्पतरुं गिरिराज सुतानित वामतनु गिरिराज सुतानित वामतनु तनुनीन्दित राजित कोटि विधु तनुनीन्दित राजित कोटि विधु विधि विष्णु शिरोस्मित पादयुगं विधि विष्णु शिरोस्मित पादयुगं प्रणमामि शिवं शिवकल्पतरुं प्रणमामि शिवं शिवकल्पतरुं शशलाञ्छल रञ्जित सन्मुकुटं शशलाञ्छल रञ्जित सन्मुकुटं कटिलम्बित सुन्दर प्रीतिपटं कटिलम्बित सुन्दर प्रीतिपटं सुरशैवलिनीकृत ऊतजटं सुरशैवलिनीकृत ऊतजटं नयनात्रयभूषित चारुमुखं नयनात्रयभूषित चारुमुखं मुखपद्मविनिन्दित कोटिविधुं मुखपद्मविनिन्दित कोटिविधुं विधुखण्डविमण्डित भालतटं विधुखण्डविमण्डित भालतटं प्रणमामि शिवं शिवकल्पतरुं प्रणमामि शिवं शिवकल्पतरुं हुं 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 पुरमद्दल त्रिमि त्रिमि त्रुपु त्रुपु मृदङ्गनादत्वरे जिगिजं जिगिजं जिगिता जिगिजं 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 सदा पापचित्तै पुनः जन्म दुःखात् परित्राहि शम्भो भजतोऽखिल दुःख समूहहरं प्रणमामि शिवं शिवकल्पतरुम्
किट्टक गदिगन धा किट्टक गदिगन धा किट्टक गदिगन टहट अट्ट हस्स विकट कराल उत्कटस्य दिगे 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 दुक्तिने प्रकट प्रकट अट्ट हस्स दिमित 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 रक्त शरद नाम दंत कुल तत संग मंगल यंत चैत चैत चै होंग चैत चैत चै होंग सत सृष्टि दंत कति दिवस भैरव रुद्र महाकल दिवस भैरव रुद्र महाकल दिवस भैरव रुद्र महाकल
Thank you for such a spectacular performance, Kaori and Gaurav. That was a wonderful end to the evening. And I'd like to invite you both back on stage, as well as Ranjit Sahai, Managing Editor, India Today magazine, and the person who's really been integral to putting together today. Please, could we welcome them back on stage? Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much, all of you, for being such a wonderful audience today as well. Cocktails and dinner will follow.